You remember the moment, not because the walls shook, not because voices were raised or plates were broken. You remember it because it was unbearably quiet. You set the phone down on the counter, face down. You looked at the screen and made a choice not to unlock it. You did not type the message you had already written inside your head. You did not call. You simply stopped. And in that sacred, terrifying stillness, something shifted, not just inside the room, but inside the atmosphere of the invisible world where the real battle had always been fought. What you could not have known in that suspended moment is that your silence sent a shockwave through the spiritual realm that the person who hurt you is still reeling from, even now, even today. They have not told you. They will not tell you. But the trembling is real, and heaven witnessed the moment you finally chose yourself. Think back carefully to what your mornings felt like before that moment, before the quiet decision. There was a tightening in your chest that began before you even opened your eyes, before you checked a single notification or heard a single voice. A pre-dawn dread that your body had learned to manufacture on schedule. Your nervous system had been so thoroughly trained by the unpredictability of that relationship that it stopped waiting for a trigger and simply began generating the alarm on its own. You were hypervigilant in the way that only the deeply unseen are hypervigilant, scanning every text for a shift in punctuation, reading tone in the absence of an emoji, bracing for the storm in the middle of an ordinary Tuesday. You lived in a state of constant forecasting, meteorology of the soul, trying to predict emotional weather patterns so you could board up the windows of your heart before the damage arrived. That was not anxiety. Let me say that clearly. That was not a disorder. That was your spirit doing the one job it was designed to do, sounding the alarm loudly and persistently that you were carrying someone else's entire dysfunction as if it had been issued to you at birth. The body kept the score long before your mind was willing to write it down. You flinched in the silence because silence with them never meant peace. It was the held breath before the flood. Your shoulders carried the weight of their moods. Your stomach clenched when their car pulled into the driveway. The sharp edges of the eggshells became familiar terrain. You learned to walk in a specific way to minimize the crunch, to navigate your own home like a soldier navigating a minefield. And you were so good at it that for a long time you mistook the skill for love. You thought your ability to manage their volatility meant you were devoted. You thought your silence around their triggers meant you were wise. What it really meant is that you had disappeared, quietly, gradually, in increments so small that no single day felt like a loss, until one morning you looked in the mirror and could not find yourself at all. That is why in the trilogy, The 3 Keys to a Prosperous Life, the link is in the pinned comment, I explain how the spirit of a true nurturer, someone wired the way you are wired, can be systematically dismantled, not through violence, but through a slow erosion of self-recognition. This material was built for the moment you are standing in right now, the moment after the silence, when the dust has settled and you are trying to understand what happened to you, and more importantly, what is now being activated in you. The first key alone will reframe everything you thought this relationship cost you. Go find it in the pinned comment, because what I'm about to walk you through next requires a foundation, and that trilogy is the foundation. Something happened though, something crossed a threshold that none of their tactics could recross. It was not a dramatic moment. The most sacred ones rarely are. It was not a screaming match or a final ultimatum delivered with tears. It was a quiet, internal event, something geological, the way a tectonic plate shifts miles below the surface of the ocean without a single person on land feeling it until the wave arrives. Deep in the holy place within you, beneath the conditioning, beneath the fear of abandonment, beneath the layer of you that had been trained to prioritize their comfort over your survival. Enough finally meant enough. Not loudly, not publicly, just absolutely. And when that shift happened, the withdrawal of your energy began. A holy withdrawal. the kind that is not performed for an audience and is not executed in anger. The kind that simply moves, the way a tide moves, with a power that does not announce itself and does not require your permission to be inevitable. Here is what you must understand about the person who hurt you, not to excuse them, not to generate empathy that would call you back, but to give you the clarity that keeps the door shut. They do not miss you the way a person with a healthy interior life misses someone they love. They do not lie awake remembering your laugh or grieving the specific texture of your presence. What they miss is the mechanism. They miss the access. They miss the remote control they believed they held over your emotional landscape, the one they had spent months or years programming through inconsistency, hot and cold behavior, manufactured crisis, and manufactured warmth. Your reactions were not just responses to them. Your reactions were the fuel their ego burned to generate the sensation of existence. Every time you explained yourself, laying out the logic of your hurt with care and precision, you handed them a new map of your vulnerabilities. Every time you sent the long message, you confirmed that they still mattered enough to you that you would spend hours constructing an argument for your own worth. You were pouring living water into a cracked cistern and watching it drain and pouring again and calling that devotion. When you went silent, you did not just stop communicating. You removed the entire fuel source from the system. And now the machine is running on fumes, rattling and shaking in a darkness of its own construction, surrounded by nothing but the echo of its own choices. There is no one to project onto. No one to blame for the hollow feeling. No one to draw a reaction from that temporarily fills the void that was always there. Long before you arrived, the void you were chosen to fill, not because you were wrong for them, but because you were radiant enough to try. They are checking your profiles from accounts you are not aware of. They are asking mutual connections questions that sound casual and are not casual at all. They are drafting messages and deleting them. They are sending small tests dressed as olive branches, little flags thrown from the burning building they built for themselves. They cannot believe you actually stayed gone, because in their constructed architecture of reality, you were the weak one. You were the one who needed them. Your silence has not just confused them, your silence has demolished the entire false story they used to survive. The God of heaven is not passive in this season. He is not watching from a comfortable distance, hands folded, waiting for the drama to resolve itself. He is active. He is strategic. He is weaponizing your stillness in ways that you cannot fully perceive from the inside of the moment, but that will become undeniable in retrospect. Consider the account of King Hezekiah when the armies of Assyria surrounded the walls of Jerusalem, and their spokesman screamed insults and blasphemies designed to break the morale of an entire nation. The king issued a decree that was followed with military precision. Answer him not one word, and the silence was not passivity. The silence was a command rooted in a trust that exceeded the circumstances, a trust that understood something the accuser did not, that engaging the enemy on his own terms is already a form of defeat. The accuser needed a reaction to confirm his power. He needed the city to respond, to argue, to defend, because a response would have given him intelligence, emotional data, a crack in the wall he could exploit. When silence answered him, he had nothing to work with. The same dynamic is operating in your life right now, precisely and deliberately. Look at Jesus standing before Pilate. Accusations arrived from every direction. His reputation was dismantled in public. His character was assassinated in front of the people who had watched him heal the blind and raise the dead. And he answered nothing, so completely, so sovereignly, that the scripture records that the governor marveled greatly. Not a little, greatly. The silence of Christ before that tribunal did not communicate weakness or defeat or the absence of a defense. It communicated an authority so settled in its own identity, so deeply rooted in the knowledge of whose he was and who he was, that no external assault could produce a flinch. That is the silence you are walking in now. and they can feel it. The person who built their entire relational strategy on your flinching cannot process a version of you that no longer flinches. It does not compute. It exposes the machinery. Your silence is not the silence of the defeated. It is the silence of the room after a sentence has been passed and the judge has left the bench. Do not be deceived when the guilt comes, and it is coming. Perhaps it is already here, already tapping at the window of your 3 a.m. thoughts, wearing the face of compassion, speaking in your own voice. You are a nurturer. You are someone who can look at a person who wounded you deeply and still see the terrified child that is operating underneath the adult behavior. That is a gift. That is a genuine and profound gift. But the enemy of your purpose is not unaware of your gifts. He has studied them, catalogued them, and built the entire architecture of this temptation around them. He knows that your empathy is the door. He knows that your deep biological aversion to being perceived as the one who gave up, the one who abandoned, the one who stopped loving, that aversion is the lever. So he will use your own compassion like a weapon against your calling. He will send the urge to reach out, disguised as maturity. He will dress the regression as closure. He will whisper that one more conversation would bring resolution, that one more explanation would finally make them understand. Rebuke that impulse at the root. You cannot bring clarity to a consciousness committed to confusion. You cannot offer resolution to a spirit that literally sustains itself on your distress. The word is not gentle here. Do not cast your pearls before swine, lest they trample them underfoot and then turn and tear you apart. This is not metaphor. Every single time you broke the silence in the past, you did not leave with peace. You left with new wounds, wearing the old scars as camouflage. That pattern is not a coincidence. It is the nature of the spirit you are no longer feeding. This is the hour when the black sheep recognizes what the wool always meant. You were different before you knew you were different. There was something about the way your mind worked, the way your spirit processed depth and beauty and grief and wonder that never quite fit the container of the environment you were placed into. You asked questions that made people uncomfortable at tables where comfort was the only God being served. You felt things at a frequency that others around you could not tune into, and rather than admitting they lacked the bandwidth, they told you that you were too much, too sensitive, too intense, too serious, too emotional. And because you heard it in enough voices and in enough rooms, you eventually picked up the label and wore it as if it had been sewn onto you at birth. But there is a reason the wolf pack expels the creature that is evolving beyond the pack's capacity. The one who is becoming is always a disorienting threat to the ones who are not. Your light did not just make them uncomfortable in the abstract philosophical sense. Your light activated something in the interior of the people around you that felt to them like irritation, but was actually exposure. When you entered the room as yourself, genuinely, fully yourself, without the performance of smallness you had learned to put on, it functioned like a mirror held up to every unexamined place in them. The things they had buried, the ambitions they had surrendered, the depth they had abandoned in favor of belonging to a shallow consensus, all of it became suddenly unbearably visible. And because it is always easier to extinguish the light than to confront the darkness it reveals, the extinguishing campaign began, not through one large dramatic act, but through the slow, daily, socially sanctioned work of making you question your own perception, making you smaller, making you apologize for the frequency at which you exist. The criticism was rarely delivered with obvious malice that would have been too easy to identify and reject. It came dressed in concern. It arrived in the language of love and family and wanting what is best for you. You are too sensitive is not a neutral observation. It is a disarmament strategy. When someone tells you that your feelings are the problem, they are not offering you a diagnosis. They are handing you a shovel and asking you to bury the very instrument that God designed to keep you alive and discerning. Your sensitivity is not a malfunction. Your sensitivity is a prophetic antenna. The fact that it was treated as a liability in that environment is not evidence that the environment was right. It is evidence that the environment was afraid, and afraid things attack what threatens their carefully constructed smallness. You carry in your cellular memory the echoes of a pattern that did not begin with you. The rejection you experienced in that relationship, in that family room, at that table, it has roots that go back further than your own story. The chains of dysfunction in a family line are not broken by pretending they do not exist. They are not broken by keeping peace at the price of your personhood. They are broken by the one person in the generation who refuses to pass the wound forward. You are that person. The one who felt the most displaced in the family system is almost always the one carrying the assignment to dismantle what the family system is built on. Your discomfort was not a punishment, it was a positioning. God places the deliverer inside the structure that most needs deliverance, not to be consumed by it, but to ultimately be the instrument of its transformation, even if that transformation happens from the outside after the deliverer is finally free. Think of Joseph, stripped of his coat, dropped into a pit by the very hands that were supposed to protect him. The betrayal did not come from strangers. It came from brothers, from proximity, from people who had eaten at the same table, who had heard the same father's voice, who shared the same bloodline but could not share the same frequency of destiny. The envy that threw Joseph into the pit was not born from hatred alone. It was born from recognition. They saw something in him that exceeded their category for him, and rather than expand, they chose to eliminate. The pit was not the end of Joseph's story. The pit was the transition between a destiny announced and a destiny activated. The suffering inside the structure was not incidental to the calling. It was part of the preparation for the throne. David was anointed in obscurity, in a field, while his brothers were brought forward and presented with far more cultural credibility. The prophet saw something in the youngest, the overlooked, the one they did not even think to call from the pasture. And then David was sent back to the field. The anointing did not immediately produce recognition. It produced a longer season in the wilderness, a longer season of being underestimated, of being dismissed by Saul, even while serving him faithfully, of being hunted by the very institution he was called to eventually lead. If you have been anointed for something significant, the enemy of your destiny will mobilize resistance from the inside first, because that is where your defenses are lowest, where the wounds cut deepest, where the doubt takes root most easily. The attack through the family structure, through the intimate relationships, through the inner circle, is not random. It is targeted. It is targeted at the specific frequency of the gift that threatens the kingdom of darkness most. As I teach deeply in the material The 3 Keys to a Prosperous Life, I left the link for you in the pinned comment. This pain is not incidental to your purpose. The 3rd key specifically addresses what happens in the season between the anointing and the enthronement, the season you are in right now, where the old structures have been disrupted and the new ones have not yet fully materialized. That space feels like loss. It feels like failure. It feels like the silence after an explosion, disorienting and exposed. But the key reveals what is actually being built in the rubble. And once you see it, the fear of this season transforms into the most clarifying certainty you have ever felt. The link is waiting for you in the pinned comment. Find it today. They called Jesus possessed when what he carried was too pure for the religious architecture to contain. They called him a glutton and a wine drinker, a friend of sinners, a blasphemer, a threat. They exhausted the entire vocabulary of delegitimization against him because the only alternative was to surrender the power structure they had spent their lives constructing. The profane eye does not recognize the sacred. It does not mistake the anointing for power and withhold its criticism out of deference. The profane eye looks at what it cannot categorize and calls it dangerous. When Jesus stood in the synagogue of his hometown and read from the scroll of Isaiah, announcing the fulfillment of the very prophecy they had all grown up reciting, the response was not celebration. It was fury. They tried to throw him off a cliff. The ones who knew where he came from could not accept what he was becoming because it violated the container they had assigned to him from birth. Does this feel familiar? It should. The parallel is not coincidence. It is a signature. Forgiveness is required. This is not optional, not spiritually and not biologically. The unforgiveness you carry does not punish them. It corrodes you. It elevates cortisol. It keeps the nervous system locked in threat response. It prevents the very healing this season is designed to deliver. So forgive, release them from the debt. But hear this with every fiber of your understanding. Forgiveness is not access. These are two entirely different transactions. And the enemy has deliberately and systematically blurred the line between them, because keeping you confused about the distinction keeps you cycling back to the source of the wound in the name of spiritual maturity. You can forgive someone with the totality of your heart and still never open the door again. You can genuinely wish them healing, genuinely pray for the restoration of their spirit, and do all of that from a distance of 1,000 miles that neither guilt nor manipulation will compel you to close. The door God closed on this season, and I want you to hear this precisely. It was God who closed it, not just your emotions, not just your exhaustion, not just a human decision made on a hard day, is a door that no one is authorized to reopen, including you. Remember Lot's wife. She had been delivered. The decree had been issued, the escape route had been established, the hand of the angel had literally taken her by the hand and pulled her out of the destruction. She was free, she was ahead of the fire, and she looked back. Not because she was evil, not because she secretly wanted to return, but because the pull of the familiar, even the familiar that was destroying her, was stronger in that moment than the trust required to keep moving forward. She turned to stone, not as a punishment issued from a vindictive God, but as the natural result of becoming permanently oriented towards something that no longer existed. When you go back, when you reopen the channel, when you respond to the test disguised as an olive branch, when you send the message that begins with, "I just want you to know," you are not being loving. You are becoming a monument to a ruin. You are allowing the gravity of what was to calcify you in a posture that prevents you from receiving what is coming. The pillar of salt is not a story. It is a warning issued from love, given to you in advance about the specific temptation that awaits you in this exact moment of deliverance. The solitude you are experiencing right now is not the absence of belonging. I need you to feel the difference between those two things at the cellular level, because the enemy will use your body's own attachment circuitry to convince you that emptiness is evidence of failure. Solitude is pregnant. It is full in a way that noise cannot be full. The tree that is going to bear extraordinary fruit in the next season does not look fruitful in winter. It looks bare, possibly dead, stripped of the leaves and activity that used to make it recognizable. But underground, in the dark, in the quiet that looks like nothing is happening, the root system is going deeper than it has ever gone, drinking from sources it could not access when all its energy was being spent on the performance of foliage. This is your winter. This is your root season. And the soul who intrudes into this silence with a quick return, who fills the sacred emptiness with the familiar noise of the wrong connection, aborts a root growth that will not come around again in this generation. There are chains in your family line that have been waiting for someone with your particular combination of awareness and courage to break them. The dysfunction that was normalized at every table you sat at, The emotional patterns that were handed down like heirlooms, the specific brands of shutdown and avoidance and control that were modeled as love. These chains do not break by being ignored, and they do not break by being accepted. They break when one person in the line sees them clearly enough to name them, grieves them honestly enough to feel their full weight, and then makes the specific decision not to pass them to the next generation. That decision feels to everyone still wearing the chains like betrayal. It looks like abandonment. It gets narrated as arrogance, as ingratitude, as you thinking you are better than everyone. What it actually is the most costly and loving thing one person can do for a bloodline, to absorb the full shock of the severance so that what comes after does not have to carry what came before. Your nervous system is in the process of a profound recalibration right now. The hypervigilance that kept you alive in a survival environment is beginning to receive the signal that survival mode is no longer the operating requirement. And this transition is disorienting because the body has a loyalty to its own adaptations, even the painful ones, especially the painful ones. The tension you are learning to release has been load-bearing for so long that releasing it feels structurally dangerous, like removing a wall in a house without knowing if it was holding the ceiling. But what you are discovering, slowly, in the quiet, in the mornings that are beginning to feel less like dread and more like possibility, is that the ceiling is being held by something far more reliable than the muscular bracing of a traumatized body. God is the architecture now. His peace, which passes understanding, is not a feeling that arrives when circumstances cooperate. It is a structural reality that holds even when the circumstances are unresolved, even when the future is not yet legible, even when the people who were supposed to be home turned out to be the storm. You are not the villain in the story they are currently telling about you. Understand this: when you remove access from someone who has built their self-concept around having access to you, they do not respond by acknowledging what they did to make you leave. They respond by rewriting the narrative in a way that restores their centrality and diminishes your agency. In the revision, you are cold. In the revision, you are selfish. In the revision, you abandoned them without cause. You changed. You became someone they no longer recognize. And this, the story goes, is evidence of your failure, your instability, your pride. Do not defend yourself against this revision. Every defense is a re-engagement, and every re-engagement is a rope they will pull until you are back in the room. The truth of what happened between you does not require their acknowledgement to remain true. Your healing does not require their apology to be real. The freedom you are walking into does not need their blessing to be legitimate. You are not awaiting their verdict. The judge of all the earth has already issued his, and it reads, "This one is mine, and this one is going somewhere." The table that is being prepared for you, not someday in the abstract future, but in the very immediate next chapter of your story, is not set for the version of you that kept shrinking to fit through doors that were never designed for your actual size. It is set for the one who walked through the wilderness, who survived the pit, who refused to return to Egypt when the manna felt insufficient. It is set with the specific provisions, the specific relationships, the specific opportunities that match the actual dimensions of who you are, rather than the compressed, performance-ready version you offered to people who never once stopped to ask what it cost you. The people who will sit at that table with you are people who do not require you to be smaller to make them comfortable. They are drawn to the frequency, not threatened by it. They have been through their own fire and come out refined rather than destroyed. They recognize the signature of survival on a face and call it beautiful. They are ahead of you, not behind. They are in the direction you have not yet fully turned to face because your eyes have been held so long by what is receding. This is the hour of your turning. Not with fanfare, not with announcement, not with a public declaration that performs the healing before the healing is complete. A quiet turning, a biological, spiritual, and social reorientation of your entire organism toward the future that God has been building while you were occupied with the grief of the past. Your purpose was not cancelled by what was done to you. Your anointing was not revoked by the years spent in the wrong configuration. The delay was not a denial. The wilderness was not the destination. Every day you spent managing someone else's emotional chaos was a day that was still, somehow, being worked into the testimony that is going to give language to someone else's survival. Someone who is right now where you were 3 years ago, sitting in the dark, convinced that this is just how life feels. Your story is not finished. It is not even close to finished. It has barely reached the chapter where the reader stops fearing you will not make it. The gift that was buried under the weight of keeping the peace, the creative vision, the prophetic clarity, the deep relational intelligence, the capacity to hold complexity without collapsing, it is not gone. It was never destroyed, only buried. And the same God who kept it alive through the years of suppression is now creating the conditions for its emergence. The soil has been broken by the loss. The rain of grief has been soaking into ground that looked barren from the surface. And what is about to come up from that ground is not a timid resurgence of the thing you used to be. It is a matured, battle-tested, wilderness-forged version that carries an authority the untested version never could have held. You went into the earth as a seed. You are coming up as something that provides shelter for others. The process was terrible. The product is irreplaceable. Do not rush the quiet. Do not fill the sacred vacuum with noise simply because the silence feels unfamiliar after so many years of managed chaos. Let the stillness do its full work. Let the solitude introduce you to the person who has been waiting on the other side of all that performance, the one who existed before the conditioning, before the eggshells, before the careful calibration of every self-expression to minimize the risk of another's displeasure. Sit with that person. Feed that person. Let the mornings begin without the chest tightening, and when the tightening comes anyway, because it will, because the body is learning a new operating system and the old one does not relinquish control quietly. Breathe through it and tell your own nervous system what it was never told by the people who claim to love you. You are safe now. The threat has passed. You are allowed to exist fully here. New connections are being routed toward you through corridors you cannot yet see, not replacements for what was lost. Something of an entirely different category. Connections that are sourced from alignment rather than survival, from genuine recognition rather than manufactured dependency. The loneliness you are feeling in this transition is not the truth about your future. It is the feeling of a between, the space after the old has released, and before the new has arrived, the space that faith is specifically designed to inhabit. You are not going to be alone. But the